With us right now is Dr. Gad Saad, former professor and global ambassador at Norwood University, author of the best-selling books Saad Truth, About Happiness and Secrets for Leading the Good Life, The Parasitic Mind, How Infectious Ideas Are Killing Common Sense. Gad, welcome back.
Oh, great to be with you. It's not former professor. I'm a visiting professor now there, but thank you. I'm great to be back.
Okay. First off, your reaction to Justin Trudeau going.
Well, I did a X Spaces yesterday where I shared my rather colorful reaction to it. Look, I think he's the biggest degenerate, malignant narcissist that certainly Canada has ever had as a prime minister. And I would argue that he might have been the worst of all of the degenerate Western leaders over the past 20, 30 years. So good riddance, except that, frankly, I can't fully celebrate because no matter what happens moving forward, the fact that he was able to be in power for 9 years is a stain that we will never erase.
Why were people in Canada so slow to realize this? I mean, when he said we're not mankind, we're people kind, when all these pictures, he's condemning everyone being politically correct, all these pictures emerge of him in blackface and Indian dress. I mean, the hypocrisy is everywhere, along with the crackdown on those truckers where he froze their bank accounts, which is unheard of in Western society.
Right. So I don't think I've ever mentioned this Arabic saying on your show, so I'll mention it here. There's an expression in Arabic, which when translated into English, you say, getting drunk by smelling the cork of the wine bottle, which basically means you are of weak constituency. You don't have to actually drink the wine bottle to get drunk. You just take a whiff and you're already drunk. I argue that that's what often happens to the electorate, right? It's too difficult for me to engage my cognitive thinking in deciding what are the policies that I like of a particular politician. I'll just whiff the cork of Justin Trudeau. He's tall, he's smiley, he's young, he's got good hair. That's good enough for me. I'll vote for him. So it takes a while before people realize that they are succumbing to this kind of affect-based thinking.
So what kind of damage that he did? I heard in damaging the currency is basically the currency is damaged 40%, even though inflation is relatively tame.
Every single metric that you can use to measure the health of a society, we've gone backwards. Housing prices are massive, inflation is massive. Orgiastic and exponential Jew hatred has completely gone out of control in Canada. I mean, Canada in general and Montreal, my home city, is absolutely insane. So there is no metric that you could think of that has led to an improvement as a result of Trudeau coming in. It's grotesque.
Do you think it's representative of the sobering up of Western society in that we're tired of the political correctness? It's not that Republicans are winning, it's that common sense is winning?
I mean, yes, except that. So if you remember, Brian, in my earlier book, The Parasitic Mind, I talked how it took about 50 to 100 years for all of these parasitic ideas to originally be spawned on university campus. And then they came together over the past 10, 20 years to create the lunacy that we have. So yes, it's great that Donald Trump is now in power and we can celebrate that. But the battle is going to be much longer. It took 50 to 100 years for this nonsense to fully develop. Hopefully, it won't take 50 to 100 years to eradicate it, but it's not going to end just because Donald Trump ascended to the highest office.
So Barry Weiss of the Free Press says, what happened in Canadian politics is not happening in a vacuum. It is a symptom of a much broader phenomenon. Call it the great crack-up of the old consensus. The consensus is being rejected through the West. Trump won the presidency by building a multiracial working-class coalition that had little affection for that progressive activism who supposedly spoke for them. The leader they say now is Giorgia Meloni of Italy. Do you concur?
Yes. You mean concur with the fact that the West is rejecting all that stuff?
And she's an example of that.
She is an example of that. I mean, Donald Trump, of course, is an example of that. Milei in Argentina is an example of that. The El Salvador president who turned El Salvador from a gang-infested place to almost no crime is an example of that.
Great example.
So people are waking up. The problem is, why didn't you wake up 15 or 20 years earlier, right? Because now we are going to solve the problem, but it's going to be a lot bloodier to do so now than 15 years ago.
So how do you feel today? We had Mark Zuckerberg on. We had Mark Zuckerberg's chief of staff essentially on the couch. His name is Joel Kaplan, and he said there's going to be major changes. And he sounded like Elon Musk is basically had his hand on his back, talking about how they're going to let the platform now be a little bit more free and open. First, here's what Zuckerberg put out last night, cut 37.
We're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US.
So he talked about X, and I'll go play some of that too. But your thoughts about Zuckerberg essentially trying to say, I had an awakening?
Look, I'm not very impressed. It's always better late than never. But for you to do something, quote, bold, once the ecosystem suggests that you should be moving in that direction is hardly the epitome of courage, right? The courageous and the bold are the ones who stand up on top of the mountain and do the right thing, even if they're going to get blowback. So yes, it's great that Zuckerberg is joining the common sense train, but it's a little bit too late. So for example, I've had many strikes against me on Facebook because I posted a screenshot of death threats that I had received as a Jewish person. That was a manifestation of me being anti-Semitic. So this is the kind of nonsense that he should have woken up to many years ago.
Right. And you think that, maybe he did, maybe he understands it. The other thing, Gad, is I don't diminish the fact that Joe Biden had the screws on, or his people had the screws on him big time. FBI had the screws on him big time. And, I guess Democrats, to a degree, never thought they were going to lose power. And I think in many ways, this is his first time to come up for air, along with guilt he might have felt for what he did in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And also, I guess people are emboldened. Even the most meek and cowardly folks are emboldened when they see someone like Elon Musk in the way that he carries himself, right? I mean, as you probably know, Elon Musk and I know each other well. And the more you get to know Elon Musk, even on a personal level, the more you love him. And so maybe Zuckerberg is looking at Elon saying, hey, I could learn to be courageous and to be a honey badger like Elon. So more power to him.
All right, maybe we'll just stay out of politics altogether, but we'll see with the advent of AI. Gad, I don't know if you would be able to detect this, but I remember J.D. Vance coming out and saying the AI, the emergence of the AI executives and these new companies is not as liberal as the social media companies that rose up in Silicon Valley. They seem to have a more balanced view of things. And speaking to David Sachs, who's going to be AI and cryptocurrency czar, speaking to the Army-Navy game, I get the sense that he is no screaming liberal. I mean, I think that he wants to, it's so vital that we have good leadership during this time, but I don't sense that he's going to be, trying to win over Hollywood.
Oh, I agree. Look, I don't know who first coined the term tech bros. I think a lot of the tech bros today are all very anti-woke. They're not only not woke, they're anti-woke. Many of those folks follow me, some of whom I've interacted with. And so that gives me great hope because ultimately the people in power will only listen to money. So for example, academic administrators were very, very keen on ignoring my message. But if someone like Bill Ackman comes along and says, hey, that $100 million donation that I was going to give you, it's going to go away. Well, they're going to listen a lot more to him than they are to me. So more power to the tech bros. March on.
Your thoughts on Trump about to take over in 14 days. And, he's got such a slim margin in the House. He's got a few senators to his advantage in the Senate. Your thoughts about what he's up against, knowing that it seems like Joe Biden's intent on burning the House down on his way out.
I am optimistic in that there is this 18-month window where a lot can be done. So I hope that he fully grabs it and does as much as he can, because to your point, once the midterm elections come around, if he loses any of the majority, then it'll be much harder to push his agenda. So I'm very optimistic, but cautiously so.
Do you think the rest of the world is more open to him now? It seems like they're all coming to visit him before. Is that a preemptive move, or is that a salutation?
I mean, I think that they're a lot more welcoming to the idea of Trump than they were, in 2016. So it's a bit of kiss the ring phenomenon, but it's also the fact that a lot of them truly believed that he was going to be Orange Himmler when he turned out to be the exact opposite. So let's keep our fingers crossed.
Before I go, I want to tap into your Middle East knowledge. The U.S. is pausing restrictions on Syria, trying to liking the fact that they kicked out Iran. They're in the process, I think, of throwing the Russians out of their bases, but knowing that their roots are in extremism in Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra. Your attitude on what our attitude should be with this new Syrian government?
Not a good one. I mean, you saw even in a small micro sense how the leader was unwilling to shake the hand of, I can't remember if it was a French dignitary, because you're not supposed to shake the hand of a woman. So I don't hold out much hope for those guys. I mean, I think he's trying to send the signal that he's a bit more modern, more tolerant, and I will allow the Christians in Syria to put up the Christmas trees. As someone who comes from the Middle East, I can tell you that they tolerate you until on one day they decide they won't tolerate you, in which case you better put on the running shoes and run real fast, because your head is about to be detached from the rest of your body. So I would not hold out too much hope for the current Syrian administration.
Anecdotally, what do your people say about the condition of Hezbollah and Hamas right now?
But by my people, meaning Jewish people?
Well, I would say your contacts in the Middle East.
Oh, I see. I mean, look, I think that October 7th, as devastatingly tragic as it was, allowed Israel to come in and really clean house with Hamas and Hezbollah. The ideology is not going to die, but certainly their ability to cause mayhem has certainly been diminished. So I would say keep going forward until hopefully every single one of the hostages come home. So I'm optimistic about that, because you've awakened the giant.
Evidently, 34 hostages their names were submitted. It's not clear exactly if the number is accurate or not, but they're submitted of people they would release, and of course, they want thousands of prisoners in return. Dr. Gad Saad, thanks so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Cheers.